There's one. So guys, we're out here on a metro lake. We're pitching Senkos to a dock. It's just an absolute great time. Super effective system this time of year. We're out here, we're fishing with 7'6" rods. We're using the Gary Yamamoto Senkos in a 5 to 6 inch model with 4/0 offset worm hooks. Rigging it just like this. Most guys are gonna do wacky worm rigging this time of year, but we are hooking it a standard way you would hook any other type of worm, okay? Right through the nose of the worm. We're throwing it on 8 to 10 pound monofilament, and we're just skipping it up underneath the dock. We're gonna show you how to do that here in just a few minutes. It's a great time, super easy technique. There's a few things you wanna keep pay attention to as you're doing that, and we'll cover that here in just a few minutes, guys. Stick with us. We're gonna get a few more bass right now. So, all right, we discussed real quickly that we're out here skipping docks with Senkos, number 4/0 hook Gamakatsu offset worm hooks for bass, okay? I just wanted to quickly explain how it is that you go about skipping a Senko. You know, when I say that, it seems a little obvious, but there's definitely a technique that you can use that will increase your odds to be able to put your Senko exactly where you want it. We're looking for any nooks and crannies on docks, in the boats, boat launches, that sort of thing. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my rod, okay? I'm using a 7'6". This happens to be a Thorn Brother custom, extra fast tip, medium action rod. I'm using 8 pound monofilament. I'm gonna go ahead and take it, I'm gonna whip it with a low wrist action like this, okay? Just nice and easy like that. Obviously I'm gonna end up letting go of the line when I do decide to cast, but I'm gonna bring my tip real close to the water, and when it gets down to about here and it's about to come back up on the orbit, I'm gonna let go of the line. My object is to let go of it so that the Senko lands about a foot before the dock. That way it skips up and it ends up underneath the dock, just like this. Okay, I got it up there about 10 feet. All you want to do, it's really simple. It's hard to do sometimes because you got to fish slow. You want to just let it sink on a slack line, okay? I'm leaving my line in a nice bow so I can watch it. If you see your line jump at all, you want to set the hook immediately. If you don't get a bite, your line doesn't jump, you just pull it forward a couple feet. That's going to make that Senko dart, okay? You're going to want it to dart, and then you just let it sink back down to the bottom. Senkos are like a cigar type bait, and what they're going to do is when they sink like a nice undulating minnow or a worm, that type of thing, okay? So that's basically all we're doing out here today is we're hitting a ton of docks, we're skipping it up underneath the dock, and we're letting that bait sink ever so gently like this, just with the weight of the hook. That's all it is. We're not wacky rigging it, we're not doing anything like that. I'm going to show you right here, okay? This is what it is. It's a Senko with a number 4 Gamakatsu offset worm hook, and we're hooking it through the nose of the worm just like you would anything else, but we're running it up so it's about halfway down, and when it sinks, it's just going to undulate through the water like this as it sinks, okay? It's a deadly, deadly, deadly setup, and it allows you to skip it, okay? I'm going to show you one more time real quick. I'm going to reposition the boat. We're gonna go right here. We're gonna go underneath that second little section there of this dock, and we're gonna put it up right tight to that boat, okay? Just like this. We're gonna get nice and low orbit. We're gonna skip it about a foot before the dock, and it's gonna shoot up underneath there. Just like that, okay? It's up nice tight to the boat. Super simple process. And hopefully, if all works out, we got a bass there waiting for me. And then you just repeat the process. So I'll move down one section of dock. I'm going to go to the third section right there. Again, I'm going to go with a low orbit. I'm going to release my line so that the Senko hits about a foot before the dock. and I'm going to skip it up right tight to that dock, just like this. Now I'm up tight underneath the dock. I'm going to gather my line so I can see the bow of the line. I'm going to let it sink nice and gently. I'm going to count to about 4. We happen to be in about 4.5, 5 feet of water with this Senko. I know it to take about 3 to 6 seconds to hit the bottom. So I'm going to count it out. We're on the bottom now. So I'm going to pull it up about a foot and let it sink and watch my line. And if that line jumps, I'll set the hook, which no bass waiting for me there. One key feature, okay guys, is you definitely need your Senko tight to the tip of your rod, okay? A lot of guys will try to cast it with like this, but what you're gonna get is a good angle, and it's gonna be tough to do. So what you wanna do is reel up your Senko so it's about 6 inches from the tip of your rod. That way you have a lot of control for when you release so that you can get the correct skipping angle, just like skipping a rock. So we're gonna put it down underneath this horizontal section of dock right there. If you can see it right there, we're gonna put it right underneath there. Just like that, okay? We're up underneath that dock about 12 to 15 feet, which is absolutely perfect. We can get a fish to cooperate. There happens to be a lot of junk under there, a lot of weeds and things, so pull it out of that and we'll let it sink. But that's really the basic concept that you're doing. You're just gonna reel it up 3 to 6 inches from the tip. You're gonna sip it right up underneath that dock. I'm up underneath that 90-degree angle portion of the dock. You're just gonna let it sink. You're gonna lift up your rod so you see that angle of the line. Give it a couple taps after you know you're on the bottom, and you're just gonna keep repeating that process over and over. Come on out here and give it a shot. It's really an effective system for this time of year. Get a lot of nice bass doing it this way too. A lot of guys are offshore throwing Carolina rigs or flipping jigs in that 8 to 12 feet of water along the weed lines. Come into these docks when you got overcast skies like this. You got a lot of good shadows, the water temperature is just about right, and you guys get yourself some nice largemouth bass. It's a great time. So we're gonna keep working this shoreline here and see if we can't get some more bass. There's one, yeah. All right, there you go, guys. Just like that, you're gonna throw it right into that dock, right up underneath that dock. I'm looking for dock poles. I'm looking for bends in the dock to create a nice little shadow. This is just a little guy, but it's a good representation on how you're gonna do this, okay? You're gonna skip that Senko up underneath there. You're gonna let it sink to the bottom, and when you see that line jump, you set the hook. You don't need to necessarily feel them as long as you can see the bow in your line jump. If you see the bow in your line jump, it's a fish, okay? A weed is not gonna do that. You need to just set the hook as hard as you can and go for it. Hook sets are free. So you just take the shot and hope he's got it up in there. Now, a lot of times from experience today, and other times of the year when I've done this type of system, I've noticed the bigger fish tend to grab your Senko, so you see that bow in your line, and by the time you close your bail and you understand where your Senko is at, your line is 12, 15 feet off to the left or right or wherever you're fishing from. That's a great situation where you want to quickly reel and set the hook as hard as you can. But this one here, I just so happened to see that bow of the line hit, and it was a 11-inch bass or so. Nothing to super brag about, but a good representation on how you can use this system to put some bass in the boat this summer. So we're gonna come up here. I'm gonna try to put it between the boat and this dock right here. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the boat. I'm gonna put it right between the boat and the dock. All right, close my bail. I'm gonna pick up my rod so I can see that bow in my line. My line, because of this wind, is just whipping all over the place. So I'm gonna gather a little bit of line. Gather a little bit of line with my reel. We got a front blowing in here, guys. Let me tell you what, they're forecasting 60-mile-an-hour winds, golf ball size hail. But we're out here trying to get this footage for you to teach you how to do this type of stuff. on your area lakes, okay? It doesn't matter what lake we're on right now. If you can tell, that's great. You can come out here and do this type of thing, but any lake in Minnesota, any lake in the United States, this type of technique will work for you. There's one. Oh, that's a good bass right there. Haha. There you go. Flipping your Senkos up underneath the docks. Early spring, mid-spring, late spring, it's all gonna be a good time. Woo, you really got this one good. There we go. Another great little representation of a fish that you can get in this summer throwing Senkos up to the dock, guys. Keep zipping them up underneath the dock. Find the differences in the dock, okay? If you got a lot of similarities, find the sections of the dock that happen to come out to the left or to the right, create shadows because of the boat and that sort of thing. You can get put more bass in the boat just like this one. We're gonna keep going. We got a couple hundred more yards worth of good docks that we're gonna try to get. All right, guys, I want to take a quick second here and show you how I'm just rigging these Senkos. Again, I'm taking the Senko, and if you look at your Senko, you've got a section here that's maybe 1.5 to 2 inches worth of ribbed. And then you've got this very smooth section that kind of looks like the collar of a normal night crawler. And then you've got the majority of your Senko that's ribbed on the backside. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the point of my hook, okay, and I'm going to run it on the short section that's ribbed. And I'm gonna run it down to the flat portion, okay, just the hook point itself. I'm gonna go just a hair past that so it starts to make a bend. Then I'm gonna pull the hook point out, okay? I'm gonna run that down. And the reason I did that is because of this straight section of the hook. I'm gonna go back, okay? That way the knot of your line is actually inside of the Senko. I'm gonna go ahead and lay my Senko flat so I can identify exactly where the hook point begins to turn, which is right here. I'm gonna mark that. I'm gonna bend this Senko just like this. And I'm gonna put my hook point all the way through the Senko. So now the hook point's laying like that. Obviously, this would work just fine, but if you want it to be weedless, and the fact that we're throwing it up underneath the docks, it's important for that factor to be weedless because you've got different types of things. You've got weeds, you've got the dock post itself, so you might have some mooring lines, that type of thing. If you take your Senko and you pull it away from the hook point, set it on the hook point and let go, it'll bury that hook point, so now it's completely weedless, okay? There's nothing can get tangled on this at all. But when a fish bites, when they bite down, it's going to expose the hook point and they're gonna get hooked just like I basically showed you right there. So that is how I'm rigging it today. When I cast it out there, it's skipping across the surface, and when it falls, because that weight of that hook is fairly centralized on that Senko, it's going to allow that Senko to undulate nicely as it falls down in the water column, you know, creating that reactionary strike. So go ahead and rig your Senkos like this. You can do a different setup. I'll quickly show you. A lot of guys, it's kind of the rage nowadays, is to do a wacky rig, and that's really simple. You find the center of your Senko, you hook it like that, you toss it out, you do the same thing. You let it sink to the bottom, you give it a couple jigs up, it creates that good undulation in the water, creating that reactionary strike. But for today, it's very key to get up about 10 feet underneath the dock, and the only way that I've been able to do that is to hook my Senko similar in this fashion here, creating it weedless. That way when it hits the water, it's able to skip up underneath the dock and get that bite. So there you are, guys. That's how we're doing it today. Let's get another one now. I'm gonna get one under this dock. Is it recording? Go ahead and turn it back. There's one. Oh, he's around the dock pole. There we are, folks. What a good time. The fish have seemed to be getting smaller as the day goes on, which is absolutely bizarre. We definitely checked this technique out before we turned the cameras on, but these are awful small compared to what the ones we were getting earlier today. I'll show you a few pictures right now of those, but come on out here to these metro lakes. Use the advantage of all these docks, okay? A lot of these homeowners are allowing the weeds to grow on the edges or the peripherals of their docks. They might be using weed rollers or, you know, pitchforks and that sort of thing to pick up the weeds, so you got good defined weed edges. Come out, use that techniques that I've showed you today to skip the Senko up underneath the dock. Get yourself some 4/0 offset Gamakatsu hooks, 8 to 10 pound monofilament, fluorocarbon, or even braid, 7-foot rod. That way you can get that good wrist action to skip the bait up underneath the dock, and you can catch bass just like this, guys. We're gonna take off because the weather is starting to look a little bit iffy. Check us out on Matt Quick Outdoors on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.